all you minties, and welcome back to a special episode of Reels Talk with your host, the amazing Amanda, my lovely co-host, the Uncanny Omar.
I am the lovely co-host, and today we're going to be talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Does it live up to the expectations that everyone is thinking it should be, or have we lost all hope with the MCU? Today we are going to be talking about spoilers, so that will come a little bit later. I figured we'd do like a 5-minute spoiler-free review for the people that haven't seen it, and then anybody else can stay to go into detail about the things we loved, liked, didn't like, and hated about this movie. Yep. This episode is brought to you by Amanda's Internet. That's it.
That's it. Just internet. Yep. Thank you, Frankfort Plant Board, for always being unreliable. I appreciate it.
Okay, they ain't calling anybody. Yeah, they'll call out the plant board right now. It ain't the time. So we went to see this movie today, and very excited to talk about it. Literally 3 hours ago, I got home and I did an auction with Nick, and I haven't had time to think about it. So you're getting it. You're getting it live. You're getting my reactions live.
Yes, this is. It might be a little. It might be like verbal diarrhea coming at you because we haven't got a good chance to, I don't know, formulate in a nice cohesive order our thoughts on the movie, but we do have obviously great reactions to it. And
verbal diarrhea is exactly how I would describe me talking. That is my superhero name. It better not have any ads because I have disabled those. So if you see ads, let me know. Because gosh damn it, I'm gonna write a letter to my congressman and tell him what the stupid ads I've been trying to disable.
Ads. Yes. Matt, are you okay with spoilers instead of seeing us?
Well, we're not talking about spoilers yet.
Yes.
We will be. No, yeah, you should not have any ads. The ads have been disabled as long as you're watching this now.
Yes.
I don't want this to be spoiled. So saying hi, I'm going to mute you all, hit the like. Oh, thank you so much.
Appreciate that.
So we are starting with no spoilers. So
well, then I'll take the banner
we'll just talk about it for like five minutes. 5 minutes. Here we go. No spoilers. All right. Guardians of the Galaxy 3. 6 years in the making.
6 years in the making. Here's what we know about it. That is a non-spoiler. Directed by James Gunn. This is what we believe to be his last run with Disney Marvel right before he goes and takes over DC because he has a lot of Superman to start writing. So it looks like this is our last run with him. Perhaps maybe our last run with the Guardians as we know it. Of course, we see all of our originals return. We have Chris Pratt coming back as Star-Lord. We have Bradley Cooper returning as Rocket, Vin Diesel as Groot, David Bautista as Drax the Destroyer, Klementieff as Mantis, the amazing Karen Gillan as Nebula, Zoe Saldana returning as a version of Gamora, the one we remember seeing surviving after the events of Endgame. So 2014 version, is that correct? And then, of course, we have Sean Gunn coming in as well as Kraglin. And, of course, we have some newcomers. We've seen some of these newcomers at when they were introduced in the holiday special, like Cosmo, played by Maria Bakalova. And we also see the return of some other characters as well. We'll talk about in the spoiler section. But yeah, we have this whole gang back together for one last ride. And, you know, well, what can we say about this movie? Someone asked, is it better than Love and Thunder? Yes. Yes.
What can we say about this movie without going into spoilers? I really love the first one because I went into the first one with the lowest expectations. I thought it was going to be garbage based on the trailers. While I did like Slither, I didn't know if James Gunn could take characters like the Guardians of the Galaxy and make them somewhat lovable and believable and memorable, and he was able to accomplish all that in the first movie. Second movie, I didn't like it as much as the first movie, but it was still a good movie. This one here, you have the task of like, okay, if this is really the end of the Guardians of the Galaxy, then what do you do that's next level? And I feel like for the most part, there were some things, but not really new territory for MCU, I don't think, other than the big F-bomb. I believe this is the first MCU movie with an F-bomb in it for a PG-13 movie, and they're allowed one.
Paving the way for Deadpool.
I guess they're getting ready for Deadpool. But man, yeah, it's hard to me. It's hard to top off the first one. So going into it, thinking, okay, let's review Guardians 3 for what it is. Guardians 3. It was a good movie. it was a good movie. Without going into spoiler territory, which we'll do here in a little bit. I really enjoyed it. It was a movie that, yes, it was 2.5 hours long, and I honestly didn't feel like it. It seems like superhero movies have to be 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
I will say there is one character, and I don't think this is a spoiler, but the character for me of Adam Warlock felt like he was an okay character. He definitely feels like the stereotypical Marvel character. He's hokey,
Yes.
he's funny. He's not really like, other than visually, like his Marvel comic counterpart.
Mhm.
I feel like almost like a wasted talent on that character. It could have been anybody playing that character, and you wouldn't have noticed. And I mean anybody. I'm not really sure why they decided to go with somebody like Will. Not that he was sucking at it, not that he was bad at it. He was just, but I
He's
think
young.
the way it was written, and it's not his fault, it was the way it was written. He just happened to be in the movie, and that's it. I feel like it was almost like a wasted opportunity. But when you have so much going into a movie, dissecting it like that, is it really fair to judge it on that aspect? I don't know. I guess we'll find out together on the spoiler side of things. But
Yes.
that's not about it. Like, that's short and sweet. I loved it. I thought it was good. Not as good as the first one. I think a little bit better than the second one. What about you, Amanda?
Yeah, no, I mean, in terms of if you're judging it side by side from the first two movies, yeah, this one for me, it started off a little clunky, but once we really started to get into the action, that's where it really started to hit its stride. I felt like getting to the story that we need to get to was a little clunky start, but once everyone got together and we started to see what the mission was and how everything started to play out, that really started to bring me more into the movie. And did I tear up and several times in the film? Yes. Did I cry at the end? Yes. Will I cry right now? Maybe. I don't know. but but anyways, no. So overall, I did really enjoy the film. I think it was a great send-off for these characters, for Sean Gunn in particular, or not Sean, John, or James Gunn. Sorry, not Sean Gunn. I'm sure he's still going to be doing stuff.
Where's Sean going?
Nowhere. Back to Gilmore Girls. I don't know. Yeah. So it's a good send off for James Gunn. He really got to do what he wanted to do, I think, in this film without a lot of interference from Disney. And you can really see a lot of that coming across on screen. That's what I liked about it. Because what's great about the film is there's clearly, in my mind, not a lot of, and maybe where I was missing it, but I didn't see any like major connections to what's going to happen in what next phase, right? Whereas poor Ant-Man suffered from, we have to set up King the Conqueror because he's the big bad for this next, iteration of movies. They didn't have to do that in this movie. It was focused on, let's focus on our Guardians. A lot of Guardians got to shine this time around that didn't get to before. I mean, besides Rocket, he's always been a staple, one of my favorite characters throughout all the Guardians. Even when he was in Infinity War and Endgame, Rocket was always a standout character. And even in this film, he's still a standout character. Even more so, he is, like James Gunn always say, he was the heart of the Guardians, and he most definitely is the heart of this film. But Nebula, Karen Gillan's character, Nebula got, right, leaps and bounds. Like, her character grew so much in this film. I enjoyed her character second to Rocket, maybe even first, because she just seemed to get a little bit more screen time because of the way the plot was playing out. And I really enjoyed her character growth. I even enjoyed some of Mantis's character growth as well, and just the way they utilized her and Drax a little bit in this film. So I enjoyed that as well. And then Gamora, characterization. It's different than what we see.
I want to talk a little more about Gamora in the spoiler side of the review. One more thing about the non-spoilery part. Holy crap, does this have one of the best visual fighting sequences in any MCU movie? And I hate to say the hallway scene, because when people say hallway scene, we think of Daredevil. But the hallway scene of practical effects and a bunch of stunt doubles doing all kinds of acrobatics and a little bit of CG. Holy crap, that was some badass. Like, if you read the comics, that was some badass straight out of DNA's run of Guardians of the Galaxy. That entire hallway scene, I'm not going to spoil exactly what happens, but wow, that was good. And so the action to me with special effects was top, was really
Oh
top.
yeah.
I loved it.
Oh yeah. Agreed.
That was
Special effects.
that's all I will say.
Yeah, special effects in this, like when you compare special effects in here to what we had seen in Ant-Man, it is by far better special effects than what we had in Ant-Man Quantumanium. Not that I want to compare the two movies, but it's hard when they are two Marvel movies that just came out that were supposed to be big tent poles for different reasons. Yeah, no, I really did enjoy this film a lot. The story moved me. I think it was a good send off. I liked how it ended. And I really liked that. I really liked both end credit scenes. I thought they were great. Yes, there are 2 end credit scenes if you guys haven't seen the movie yet. So stay the whole time because that last credit scene is pretty funny.
All right. I mean, I think we've gone 10 minutes of the non-spoilery section. So we both liked it. Yeah, it was good. Now let's find out some exact scores. By the way, a big shout out to Chris Zimmerman. How are you doing, brother? I am going to put the banner up right now in case people are just now tuning in. I don't want to spoil this for anybody because I think everybody should go and see it by themselves and find out how great or non-great it is, depending on your taste. But moving forward, we are talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 with spoilers. And this is something I really want to talk about with people when we do these live streams because I like talking about Easter eggs. I'm a big fan of Easter eggs, and I've caught some, but I'm wondering what else other people caught. I've seen this movie one time just a couple hours ago. So I'm excited to talk about the Easter eggs as well. So Guardians of the Galaxy, we have the introduction of the High Evolutionary, who is the villain in this movie, that has pretty much ties to Rocket Raccoon and his origin and how he came to be, scientific experiment. And he's a character, that appeared from the comics and has a lot to do with Adam Warlock. So I was excited to see that dichotomy of like the two characters playing off of each other. Unfortunately, there wasn't that much here in the movie, but we'll get to that in a second. So we kick it off with a drunk Star-Lord, thinking about Gamora, and the Guardians are still in nowhere, which they've made their home base. So it's kind of like a trip back to the Christmas episode. You said it was very important to watch the Christmas episode, and the only thing I thought, that must have been important was the Mantis and Star-Lord relationship because they're brothers.
Yeah, I think that would be it. Unless you're confused as why they were on nowhere and who Cosmo was. Maybe those were the only other things that, and I guess with the end credit scene with the Kevin Bacon being abducted by aliens on the back.
Yeah, that was a good Easter egg. I was saving that one for the Easter eggs.
Kevin Bacon tells all, and I was like, that you would not get that if you didn't watch the holiday special.
So this is the story of Rocket Raccoon, but it seems like it's less Rocket and more everyone else at first. Yes, you get Rocket's background, but you don't get a lot of Rocket. Rocket gets taken out of commission early on in the movie by the new character of Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock comes
by the med pack, actually.
The med pack, right?
Yeah, the med pack screwed him over because they were using the med pack to heal him when he got hit by Adam Warlock, but then it triggered this thing on this fail safe or whatever on his heart. And within 48 hours, they didn't find the key, essentially, then he was going to die. So now their mission was to find that.
So the music, let's talk just a little bit about that because Matt's bringing this up. The music seems a little updated, compared to what it's been in the past. Because keep in mind, Quill only had 2 volumes to go through of his mom's music. So here we had Radiohead's Creep. Was it Creep? Was it Radiohead? Yeah, I think it was. It was Creep. Yeah. They edited out the F word. I thought I was listening to it, but they never said so effing special. Yeah, I don't know how I wanted to talk about the music. I don't know how I feel about some of the choices for the music in this movie. It kind of seemed like it was all over the place, unlike the previous 2 volumes, which I thought they were really fine-tuned. But we'll come back to that.
Flaming Lips, do you realize? I was glad I like that song, so that was cool hearing that play.
Which one, the Flaming Lips?
Yeah, the Do You, which is also in a commercial. Wasn't it got famous because
it was just, I don't know. It was just, I love the Beastie Boys, and I thought that was a nice addition. All right, so back to the plot. So we have Adam Warlock coming in, looking for Rocket Raccoon, taking him out of commission, and now the Guardians are off on a mission. like to go and save their friend because he has 48 hours to live. Right. And you're right, Scott. This takes place right after the Christmas special.
Yeah. So they have crunch time, right? And so they're trying to figure out what they can do. And Nebula says, well, I know someone. So let's go find that person. So they end up at, they figure out who made Rocket because Nebula can like loop in like or connect in with her, robotic connections and stuff in her own computer chip inside her own head. And she's able to determine what company created him and where they're located. An orgoscope, is that what it's called? Orgoscope? Is that it's like an organic, I'm not a fan of like body stuff. So,
not a fan of body.
Not well, you know what I mean. So it's this planet created out of organic matter. And they show up and they get raided by Ravagers. The Ravagers that are run by Sylvester Stallone. Nice to see him back in reprising his role as the leader of the Ravagers.
He wasn't the only one out of the Ravagers. This is Starhawk, by the way. So
yes.
Although they don't call him Starhawk in the movie, what do they call him? Stakar or something like that? Something not Starhawk, but it's supposed to be Starhawk. You have Mainframe is back. She's being voiced by Tara Strong again. And oh my gosh, what is it? Martin X, who's one of the original Guardians. Now, who was missing was Charlie 27. I can understand why. You probably had to pay a lot of money from Ving Rhames to come back. And of course, Michelle Yeoh. Like
she's too busy getting off. Yeah.
Right. But everybody else from Starhawk's Guardians of the Galaxy did come back in this for more than just a little cameo. So that was nice.
And lo and behold, the person that's hanging out with them is actually 2014 Gamora. So she apparently has found her family in Stakar's Ravager clan. And that's who Nebula had called. And basically, they provided them with the suits and things they needed to infiltrate the Orgoscope, to infiltrate this company. And of course, this brings up issues for Peter. And she has to constantly remind him, I am not the same Gamora you met. That's an alternate version of me. That's a future version of me. Nope, I'm not talking to you. And it's a constant thing throughout the entire movie because she's really mean to him when they meet up for the first time. And keep in mind, we just saw him get so drunk he knocked himself out at the beginning of the film thinking about Gamora. And he even said like he was drunk, passed out. He's like, I love you, Gamora. And he was like holding Nebula's hand. And I kept getting this like, are they going to try to hook him and Nebula up by the end of this movie? Which they did not. And I am grateful for. That is good. They just need a good friendship role. And I think it worked perfectly.
I think there are a couple of moments that I feel like in a stereotypical Marvel MCU way, they would have gone a certain way. And they kind of fooled me into thinking that. I think it was an already edited version of Creep in the past where they used the very instead of F word. Keep it PG-13. They can only use. Yeah, I've always heard that rule. And there was a movie recently that I saw that used 2 F-bombs and it was still PG-13, but I cannot remember what that was. So yeah, they meet up with Gamora and now she's a Ravager, which I guess maybe fits, but whatever. I feel like there's a story there that maybe one day we'll get to. Who knows? But yeah, they go to this body planet and this is where you get one of the biggest stars in the movie show up. And that is, of course, Sir Nathan Fillion.
Yes. Nathan Fillion is playing, I guess he's one of the captains of like the guards that kind of monitor the area. His name's like Master Karja. I'm looking at IMDb.
Oh, you're looking at IMDb. I was going to say, he's been in Guardians 1, he was in Guardians 2, and now he's been in Guardians 3.
We actually get to see his face, and he gets to be the Fillion that we all have come to know and love. And he has some great lines in the film. Great. Whenever he's on screen, he makes the most of it. That is for sure. That is Nathan Fillion. So they managed to infiltrate this area, and of course, we also get a nice little cameo from James Gunn's now wife, Jennifer Holland, or Harcourt. If you guys were watching Peacemaker, she's like the overseer, like pretty much like the security guard who's monitoring all the cameras in the whole facility, right? And so she's there too, and she's monitoring things, and they kind of go off in 2 separate directions. Mantis and Drax go off into like the main area, and they're trying to infiltrate one part, and then Gamora, Nebula, and Star-Lord go off to another part to try to retrieve the file on on Rocket, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for the file on Rocket because the file should have this passcode that would stop this device from detonating or killing Rocket in 24 hours that is inside of him. Of course, as we all know, chaos has to ensue. They cannot just get it easily, and it leads to them having to fight their way out. Drax gets, Nathan Fillion's character loads 2 massive shots of some kind of like ray gun on him. I really thought I was like, and Drax, they're going to kill Drax right now. Yes, Ratcatcher is also in it as well.
It was, what was her name? Aru?
Uru.
That's it. Yeah.
Uru, the girl who was in charge
of
of
Bruce Campbell of Guardians. And I agree. Well, Manny, I agree with you, but honestly, let's face it. I mean, if he was 20 years younger, yes, Simon Williams. But nowadays, he's just, guys, what, 48? Is he 48, Blas? I thought he was pushing 50. Yeah. What's up, Mr. Awesome? Thank you so much for saying hello.
Hello. Yeah, and it's worth noting, so they do manage to escape, right? They manage to escape with the file, and when they access the file, they realize that there's a lot of data that has been removed and downloaded. And who downloaded it but one of the High Evolutionaries record keepers, played by Nico Santos. He's a character that I remember very fondly from the short-lived series called Superstore on NBC. And and so now they realize they have to find this record keeper because he probably has it in his like devices on his head. And so they need to find this guy. So they realize he's probably with the High Evolutionaries. So now they have to find the High Evolutionaries coordinates, and they have to track them.
In this movie, you also find out that the High Evolutionary created the Sovereign, which of course is her, or I cannot remember her name. What's her name? Alicia.
Okay.
And him, Adam Warlock. But he also created the Ani-Men, so that's awesome, from the comics. And he created the Zeronians. So those are characters that appeared in Incredible Hulk, and the Ani-Men. I think I always think of them from X-Men, the early days of X-Men with Thunderbird.
Yeah,
but I think they appeared in, was it Daredevil? Maybe I think first. But yeah, you get that as canon. Like he is their creator. He is a godlike being that experimented and
let's create the perfect world. Yes, and it's worth noting and we'll talk about characterization of. I'm sure we'll talk about Adam Warlock's creation or characterization here in a little bit, but it's worth noting that the reason Adam Warlock goes to attack and retrieve Rocket is because the High Evolutionary pulled him from his cocoon too early because he needed him to go retrieve Rocket. Because the High Evolutionary believes that Rocket is the only being he's ever created who was so intelligent that he was inventive. He could create things. And that's what he has failed to be able to recreate in any of his subsequent creations. The mind that is able to create and not just fall into, I don't know if he's saying anything about humankind, but we can talk about themes all day long on what mankind is like. But yeah, so that's why he's trying to retrieve Rocket. And we find out in some of the flashbacks, he was originally going to he wanted to keep Rocket, destroy the rest of Rocket's friends. After Rocket helped him figure out the way to create the perfect evolutionary figure that has no violence in them, which apparently did not work in the long run because evolution, I guess, always makes violence. I don't know what we're trying to say about evolution.
What are you trying to say about the theme here? What's happening?
I don't know. Yes, but he was going to experiment on his brain because he realized when Rocket was giving him in the flashbacks, was giving him information. He's like, how did you know that? Because I made you and I didn't know that. So how did you know that? And that's when he realized that Rocket was something special. And I know it's always been hinted at in the other films. Rocket always said, like, I remember Rocket saying something to Tony Stark, you're only a genius here on Earth, right? And I didn't think anything of it. So I was like, I guess Rocket's a genius. But now I come to realize with this film, okay, he actually is considered a genius. Yeah. So anyways, so that's a little bit of backstory on Adam Warlock. He came out too soon, so his mind isn't as developed as his body. And that's why he comes across as immature and childlike, according to a lot of the articles I've read. Go ahead.
So Scott's asking, I'm curious if they ever reveal when the High Evolutionary visited Earth, and he ties to Wendigore. So I thought the whole Wendigore thing, I remember when we were watching Doctor Strange, multitude of madness or whatever it was. I thought we were going to see a statue of him on Mount Wendigore. But no, they never clarified. But he did come to Earth, and that's where the idea of Counter Earth came from, which is very true to the comics. I mean, it's not going to be a true adaptation, as we've come to learn with these comic book movies. Just like Adam Warlock is not a true adaptation, but at least it's semi-close with his whole ties to the High Evolutionary, maybe Counter Earth, although it's kind of no more afterwards. Y'all keep talking about Alf, and Alf made like 2 cameos in this stupid movie.
They were very significant Alf cameos, though. I mean, that note she gave him,
James Gunn
Rocket was very, very distinct.
Mm-hmm.
So they go on their quest. They end up at Counter Earth. So in the flashbacks, which are graphic, as far as the depiction of animal cruelty and the depiction of him working on these animals, it is, I guess, quite graphic, and there is a lot of it. I did take my 7-year-old. She did cry when the High Evolutionary killed and his guys killed all of Rocket's friends. And I was like, okay, let's go to the bathroom now. So we can.
Dude, I gotta say, like at 7 years old, we were watching things like Bambi and maybe The Fox and the Hound, and that for real. But it's a little traumatizing to see like characters get shot.
Yeah, I kept having a reminder these are computer animated characters. They are computer animated. Those are not real.
That doesn't matter to a kid that's watching them.
I know. I was like, okay, I didn't realize it because the trailers, I didn't know, like in the trailers they made it seem like Lila was going to be a reunion. So when they hugged I was like, that's a flashback. That hug was a flashback. That wasn't a reunion. Oh crap. Crap.
In the trailer they had CG'd her arms, and you didn't see the robotical pieces on these characters. Once again, they fool you with those fake trailers.
Yeah. But yeah, so they end up on Counter Earth, which has these humanoid creatures. We saw them in the trailers, right? We saw them in the trailers. They look like these weird humanoid animal creatures that pretty much were like humans. Like they created a human-like Earth. They had houses and jobs. Mm-hmm. Apparently octopus guys dealing meth to cockroach dudes, and so they end up on this Earth to try to find out, okay, where can we find the information we need? Where can we find the High Evolutionary? And luckily someone does help them and gives them a car. And this is when we come to realize that, Peter's only ever driven actual spaceships. He's never driven a car before because he wasn't on Earth that long. So that was a pretty funny scene, him trying to drive the car. And that's when we get your
all right.
What?
Hold on. You just reminded me of something that I hate to be this guy.
Go ahead.
But anytime something like this happens, I have to ask myself, wait, how would he know that? There was something that he called him Skeletor, which makes sense because he would have been a kid at that time and I'm watching He-Man.
Yes.
Purple Nurple. Whatever. Yeah, and there was another thing that he called him, and that's when I was like, wait, that one actually doesn't make any sense because I don't think he would have been a kid on Earth watching that show. I think that show is past the time that he got abducted by aliens, and I cannot remember what it was. And we were in the movie theaters. I was not going to be that guy that wrote down what he called him on the phone.
Yeah.
RoboCop. Was it RoboCop? Because when did Peter Quill get abducted? Thank you so much for that. Who remembered that?
Now we have to go back to like the title card. Was it 19?
RoboCop, like the original RoboCop movie, I believe was it 1988? I want to say, or 87. Let's say it was 87, right? And he got abducted in 86.
86? That's what I thought. What year I'm looking it up.
Okay. Does anybody remember Guardians 1?
88. It was 88. So the film would have been out.
No, then he okay. Never mind.
Right.
Damn it. Yep. I thought I had one. Okay.
Sorry. You're like, you can't catch James Gunn on that stuff. You can't catch him.
Yeah, I did it in the first movie because it didn't make. Anyway, go ahead. All right, so,
anyway,
my bad.
Yeah.
I thought it was 86.
So basically, him and Nebula and Groot go to this big, massive pyramid thing in the center of this Counter Earth, and that's where all the record keepers are, and of course the High Evolutionary's house. They task Mantis and Drax to stay behind. Gamora's also staying behind. Gamora did the bad thing of contacting the Ravagers, of course, who are one of them was already taken by Adam Warlock and Aisha, and now they know the coordinates of the Guardians, so they're on so Adam's on his way to the Guardians as well. So they're split up for a time, and all this stuff ensues, and you have Nebula Nebula has to stay outside, but Groot and Peter end up talking to the High Evolutionary. And of course, at the same time, the High Evolutionary sends out War Pig, who was played by Judy Greer. And I did not realize that. She's the actress who always plays like the best friend in all the rom-coms, like 13 Going on 30. She was the mom in the new Jurassic World, the first one. Like, I was like, oh, that's
Judy Greer from Arrested Development.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't remember her.
You can say goodbye to these, Michael. That girl?
Yes, yeah, that girl. Yeah, that was War Pig, who went over to the Guardian ship to retrieve Rocket. And then, of course, by that time, Gamora had started going through some of Peter's stuff, and she started seeing, like, she had saw the picture of him and his grandfather and his mother, Polaroid he had, and his Alf memorabilia and all that stuff. And she decides to protect Rocket, the Badger. She kept calling him the Badger, and from the War Pig. And then, of course, Adam Warlock shows up, and then she has to battle him. And at the same time, the High Evolutionary decides that he's going to demolish this creation, this Counter-Earth, because, well, he's going to raise it since it's not what he wanted it to be. And so his ship starts to rise up out of the ground, because that big pyramid was an actual ship. And, of course, Peter and Groot are still on it. Groot had hidden all of their guns in him, and they have an awesome fight scene where he gets all the guns out, and they have this big shootout with all of the High Evolutionary's guys. And
I gotta say that was badass when he's like,
it was.
Now,
didn't Quill grab his last place of guns out of his butt, like, because he had them all over him, and I think it was like in behind Groot where he had to grab his two pistols out of, which I thought was pretty funny. But
so Vincent, you just reminded me the whole time, the Guardians have their outfits on. I'm like, put the helmet on. Oh, yeah. For the love of God, just give me 5 seconds of the helmet. Just 5 seconds, 5 good seconds of that helmet. But it never came. Even though they are fighting in space. But whatever,
Yeah. So Brian was saying that most of the music made no sense. He left in '88, but didn't he get a Zune from someone? So I feel like if the Zune would have,
okay, that one, that one made sense, right? Like,
yeah, he got a Zune back, so he would have been,
and that had updated music like Creep and things like that. Yeah, that's how they that's how they expand the soundtrack, right? And I was okay with that. With some of it, like Beastie Boys, some of it I was like, oh, yeah, all right, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So of course they have to escape, and they have to get that that record keeper they came in the first place for, who has Rocket's information inside of him. And you have this really interesting scene where they grab him and jump out of the ship and falling like 1,000 feet, and then Groot makes Groot wings as he's flying down.
I love that, because that's a very, very Swamp Thing thing to do, like Swamp Thing creating wings. And yeah, sure, Groot can do that.
Yeah, sure.
I had a Zune. My wife still has a Zune. I
never made it to a Zune.
Yes,
I never got one.
He went back. I never understood why he went back for the Zune, because it's not like his mom gave him this. Like, going back for your cassette player, I got. Going back for the Zune, you have no nostalgia for it, right?
It's because Rocket liked it. Because remember, the whole thing is Rocket was using it in the beginning of the film, and he got mad at Rocket because he had it, and then he gave it to Rocket at the end of the film with that note. Then Rocket started playing Florence and the Machine, which I was like, I was wondering what 2000s song was James Gunn. Like, James Gunn, what was he gonna pick? Was it gonna be Britney Spears? I would have laughed my butt off if it was something like that. But it was, Dog's Days Are Over, which I thought was a great song choice for that part. Anyways, I digress. So they're falling 1,000 feet, but meanwhile, Nebula and Mantis and Drax jumped onto the spaceship to try to save Peter and Groot. So miscommunication, apparently. Meanwhile, the entire, you're just watching this entire planet being destroyed, and you're seeing all of these, families that are just getting killed. And of course, when Adam Warlock realizes it, he goes to try to save his mother, Aisha. Well, Aisha gets blown up as well. So now Aisha's gone. So now Adam Warlock is a half-baked humanoid guy with now no mother. So that's going to be some interesting character development, I guess, in the future for Adam Warlock if we get more of him. And yeah, so they end up on the ship, but they end up off the ship. Gamora manages to meet up with Peter and Groot with the Guardian ship. She still has a unconscious Adam Warlock with her as well. And they retrieve the information from the Record Keeper's device, and they're trying to save Rocket. And it doesn't look like it's going to happen because then Rocket's like in that weird Harry Potter afterworld where you can go one of both ways, and people from your past come and talk to you, and you see Teeth, and you see Floor, and of course Lila, and they're there to embrace him, and he wants to go with them, and then Lila is like, no, it's not your time yet. And then that's when everything starts to work, and Rocket is saved from the brink of death. So that's 2 deaths I thought we were getting that we did not get. Drax did not die when he got blasted twice, and Rocket did not die from the little device that was going to explode in him. So 2 of the deaths I expected I did not get in the film. So yeah. But of course, yeah, go ahead.
No, dude. We're almost done, and then we can dissect it, and I can talk about the Easter eggs. One that my brother was really confused about.
Was it Da Vinci's The Man? It was Michelangelo.
No, that was me rolling my eyes, going, "Okay, that's a little too in your face about this. We get it. Yes, he is a godlike creature," which is interesting because in the comics, Roy Thomas compared creating or writing the character of Adam Warlock like Jesus Christ Superstar. They were heavily influenced by that. And that's what Counter Earth was. He was supposed to be their Jesus-like character. And he's like fighting the Satan version or the Counter Earth Satan version of Satan in the Counter Earth. So, I mean, there's a lot of Jesus-like comparisons with the character of Adam Warlock. So it was interesting because that in the movie that kind of came out of nowhere with the creation, right? With both Phil and Adam Warlock touching fingers. No, he was confused as to the post credits, the mid credits, as to one of the characters, which we haven't gotten there yet, and we'll talk.
Oh, the girl, because I was also confused.
Yeah, he was like, "Who's the girl supposed to be?" And I can only think of one character that's like that has white hair, and she has like almost like these glowing hands. And
she almost has quantum, like quantum kind of magic,
right? Like, so I was thinking of Phyla Vell, right? The character that would eventually become the new Quasar in the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh,
but I don't know if it's her or not because I haven't seen any of the credits, and I don't know if that little girl is credited as anybody. But that's who I told him it was, and he was like, "Who?" And I'm like, "You need to read more modern comics."
I forgot. Yeah. So eventually, now we have our Guardians split up, and the High Evolutionary takes Mantis, Drax, and Nebula hostage, or he puts them in, and they realize that there's all these young children. These are the next.
Oh, wait. Roberto Rodriguez is saying her name was Phyla.
Yes, I thought it was something like that. Phyla. Yeah. So is that?
I didn't even catch it. Awesome.
That'd be kind of cool then. So yeah, I like that.
Very cool. Well, they're casting them real young now.
Yeah, her name is Kaizen. Phyla is her name. Kaizen. She is tiny.
Yeah, she's a little girl. She's a little girl. They usually are tiny.
Yeah, she's only like done voice work for like Eureka. I don't know what that is. I think I've seen it once. It's like a little animated thing for kids. Anyways, so of course now that Rocket is recovered, that side of the Guardians decide they have to go save the other side of the Guardians. And then of course there's lots of bickering and stuff. Someone earlier had mentioned that there's a lot of screaming in the film, and that was one of the things that get on my nerves a little bit, especially with like Mantis yelled a lot, and then she yelled at Nebula a lot, and Nebula yelled at everyone else a lot. I was like, we don't have to yell all the time, do we? To like get our point across.
Well, okay, are we done with the recap? Was that it?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of yelling in that particular scene when her and Drax and when Mantis, Drax, and Nebula were on that ship. They were yelling at each other because she was giving Drax a hard time for being so dumb, and then Mantis was saying he is dumb, but why? And then of course he was getting his feelings hurt. So then she made Drax forget about it, which was kind of funny.
You think I'm dumb? Oh, but then that comes to play later on when when Nebula realizes what Drax is. And I thought that was a really nice touch. That was the one part that I teared up in when
that was a good part. I figured you would.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful.
Yes. So well, let's finish it out. So the Guardians come. They have a standoff with the High Evolutionary, who even his own people end up turning on him, but he still kills them all anyways. And they manage to get their friends out because they're with, is it the Beholders, right? That's what those things are called. Those big giant creatures that from Volume 2 that they had to fight in the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah,
the big teeth. Yeah. So those things were trapped inside the area that Gamora or Nebula and Drax and Mantis trapped in. But Mantis manages to calm them down and they become her pets or something like that happens. So basically, after the other Guardians arrive, they have the awesome tunnel fight scene where they all get together and they decide we're going to save all the children on the ship, all of these creatures and stuff. And then they contact Kraglin. He brings the Nowhere head to them and they dock them. And then Cosmo, using her awesome her telekinesis powers, manages to keep them together so that all these little kids can cross. And then as Rocket's leaving, he notices all the cages of all the animals still. And he sees the cage of all the raccoons. And then it even has like the description of what the animals are from North America. And then it says their kingdom, genus, phylum. And then it says that they're raccoons. So yes, all along, he now knows he is a raccoon. He even says, I'm Rocket the Raccoon. I'm Rocket Raccoon. And I was like, just when Drax said he was Drax the Destroyer, we're getting all the comic book names in this film. So then they decide to let all the animals out. So then we get all these animals rushing to the Nowhere head. And then, of course, we have the last fight scene with High Evolutionary. You think he's going to get Rocket, but all the other Guardians show up. And then they're all just kicking his freaking butt until they peel his face off. And he looks like what Harvey Dent looked like with his like eyeball and all burnt looking. That was so gross. Apparently, that's what Rocket did to him when he had escaped and he was like attacking him when he was younger.
Well, I mean, this gives them a chance to bring in the High Evolutionary back with his iconic helmet, which was a nice touch with the spaceship. The spaceship was the color scheme of the face that he wears, like, you know, the helmet that he wears or the mask that he wears.
Yeah.
So no body, no death, right? That's always the rule with these things.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, then the ships end up getting undocked because Cosmo can't hold any longer. And all of them managed to get across except for Peter. And I was like, wait, so they're going to kill Peter off? Well, that I wasn't expecting.
When his face was like, I was like, oh my God, are they going to make his head pop? Because that's a really messed up way to kill off your main character.
I know. I was like, this is already a super dark film. That's really dark. So yeah, it looks like Peter is floating, kind of like when in the first movie when Gamora was floating in space and he had to use his helmet and thing, and then he used his boosters and went and saved her. So then someone shows up and we get this weird God and man Adam finger touching, and it's Adam Warlock, and he takes Peter and he brings Peter to the ship safely. Peter's face is a little misshapen for a minute or two because he's
like, did it look cool? I did like the delivery of like, did it look cool? And he's all jacked up.
They're like, yeah, it looks great. So you get a nice little ending. No one died except for like, you know, the bad guys and Aisha.
Excuse me? There was an entire planet. Counter Earth.
Whole planet. I mean, none of our Guardians died, like a lot of people were predicting. And at the end of the day, even though none of the Guardians died, we do see a parting of ways. Peter decides that it's time for him to go visit his grandfather back on Earth and, you know, stop living in this constant trauma state of being abducted, never getting to, you know, mend fences and come to terms with a lot of stuff. So he leaves. And then Mantis decides she wants to leave as well. Nebula stays behind to run nowhere, asks Drax for his help because, and Omar's favorite line, you can say it.
She realized, she says, I realize what you finally are. And she said, you're not you're not Drax the Destroyer. You know, you were born to be Drax the father. And I was like, oh my god,
Yeah.
you know, he lost his little girl. Like, he's been talking about that since the first one. Like his whole mission was his wife and daughter died at the hands of Ronan the Accuser. In the comics, you know, it's a little bit different with Thanos. But in the movie, it was always Ronan the Accuser. So once Ronan is gone, it kind of like dropped that, right? So in this, you get to see him play that father figure, like acting goofy, dancing for the first time.
Yes.
And I thought that was such a nice, beautiful little touch. Yeah, but when she said, you know, you're born to be a father, I was like, oh god, that's so pretty. That's so pretty. That nice family, dude. The entire cast. That's what man. Nobody really died. I'm like, the entire planet died.
People did die in the film. But we all were expecting, and I'm sure no one can deny it in the chat, you were expecting a Guardian.
That nice octopus selling smack died.
Yeah, that's poor octopus.
Roach heads.
To roach heads. But, I mean, I'm sure everyone was expecting one or more Guardian to bite the bullet. So none of them did. Rocket becomes head of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and that's where we get our first end credit scene. Is the new Guardians, which is Groot and Rocket, that Phyla character, who she's one of the kids that were the creations they saved, right? So she's one of the high evolutionaries.
They're really building this Young Avengers team. I mean, by the time they finally make a Young Avengers movie, these kids are going to be like 30. And you know your boy's going to be too old to be on the Young Avengers team.
And that's a shame. Oh, this girl is like 5. So there's no way she's going to be like, at most, this girl, looking at her, is like maybe 9. At most. Yes, she is young.
I thought that was really pretty too.
I love that too.
I know it was yelling, and I know there's a lot of yelling, which I want to talk about here in a second.
Yes.
But I thought that was a really nice, pretty scene where Mantis goes off on Nebula as to the importance of Drax and what he brings. Because I mean, that is a family unit, right? Not everybody brings the same thing to a family. And he thoughts on what the second post-credit scene is going to mean for the future of Star-Lord. So the movie ends with Star-Lord talking to his grandpa about why his wife's son can't go out there and mow the lawn.
Yeah, he's like, why do I have to go mow her lawn when her 45-year-old son is just sitting there on the porch watching me? And I was like, oh, man.
It was I don't know why I thought that was funny. And then it ends with the sound of the spoon clicking the bowl, right? And as his grandfather's reading about Kevin Bacon getting abducted. So it's a nice touch to the holiday special. And then it ends with the legendary Star-Lord will return. And legendary Star-Lord, of course, was the series written, I think it was Sam Humphries in 2014 and 2015. So it kind of leaves it open, right? It kind of leaves it like, hey, maybe Chris Pratt and all these actors don't have to be done with their characters. Yeah. But does it end a bunch of character arcs? Absolutely. Drax has a bunch of kids. You never need to see Drax again.
You don't. Yeah.
Do I want to? Absolutely, I want to see these characters again.
Yeah, I mean, Dave Bautista does such a good job in the role of Drax. And
I wonder if the Counter X was having a writer's strike.
I do wonder that as well. But no, I mean, you know, they've come to embody these characters so well. I mean, I would love to see them again. But yes, like there's a lot of loose ends that were tied up for some of these characters. Now, could we see Nebula and Kraglin and all of that? I mean, we could see people on Nowhere again. We could see a new version of the Guardians, because with Groot and Rocket being CGI characters, how long does it take Vin Diesel and Bradley Cooper to do some voice work? Like
we got Phyla there. We've got Adam Warlock. You throw in a couple of characters like Major Victory. You throw in Nova, and you introduce Nova through the next Guardians movie. It really couldn't go anywhere. Keep in mind, Guardians of the Galaxy was one of these franchises or one of these comic books that weren't really like locked down on a team, right? The team that you see in the movie wasn't even the original incarnation. It was far from the original incarnation. Yeah. The original incarnation was Martin X, Charlie 27, and Yondu and Major Victory. And the Yondu from the comics is so different from the movies. Then later on, we got Jim Valentino's Guardians of the Galaxy. It wasn't until the Annihilation Conquest that we got to see this team. So yeah, I if Zoe doesn't want to come back, I don't know. Daisy Ridley says she was done with Star Wars and she's coming back. Money always talks, my brother. Money always talks. Give these people enough, distance away from the characters, and it could be like a reunion. Yes, it sucks you're not going to have James Gunn, at least not for the foreseeable future, but maybe one day. I don't know. But I mean, you don't have to stick to the same formula. You don't have to stick to the same characters. A confident writer, or a good writer rather, and a confident director could take you places that, you know, you're going to be just excited to see. I was excited to hear Bug, the name Bug, when they called Mantis Bug, because Bug was a character from the Micronauts, later on joined DNA's Guardians of the Galaxy. So when they said Bug, I was hitting my brother, and I forgot that he doesn't read new comics. He's like, what? And I'm like, what? Ah, never mind, damn it.
Yes.
So let's talk about one of the things people keep saying. A lot of people were yelling. Yes, it felt like there were two moods in this movie, crying and yelling. There's really no in between to show emotions. It's either yelling at each other, which, hey, it's a fucking family. That's what you do. You yell a lot. At least in my family, you do. And you cry a lot together.
Maybe it's just about to be a family.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. But you know, I didn't mind. I did notice something with Zoe, though. This is the first time I noticed her accent when she was yelling, and she yelled a lot. And I noticed her accent, which I never noticed before. Like, I never noticed her accent before. But it was like, whenever she was yelling, she just let that Latina accent
She's like, I can tell you what.
I don't give a shit. I'm yelling for real. I'm yelling for real. I get those Micronauts. I wish, brother. I wish. Ambush Bug. We need Alita 2. Quasar and Beta Ray Bill would be good. See? You can go anywhere with these.
You can do, yeah, so the yelling, and the only time I really bothered me, like I noticed it the most, was really when like Mantis seemed to yell a lot, and like she was constantly getting upset about stuff, and then of course Nebula was too. But at the same time, I let it kind of slide because then Nebula had some really great scenes as well.
Yeah, you know, and this goes to show you how much character development happened in between the three movies, or within the three movies, and the Christmas special, I guess. And I guess Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah.
But how much there was in between that you're like, oh, I wish there was a TV series. Because there was a scene that got me. I was like, oh, I didn't realize how much she cared. When Nebula found out that
Rocket lived.
Rocket was okay.
Started crying. Oh, I know.
I was like, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Like, when did she start caring? Dude, that was awesome. Oh.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I was like, wow, she really did like she really cared about Rocket. But at the same time,
started.
Then I thought, when you think
really
about
not liking Guardians, but by the end loved it.
There we go. When you think about it, they were the only ones left for the Guardians after the snap. So they probably spent a lot of time together in those 5 years because they were all each other had when everyone else was gone.
You're 100% right.
So it makes sense that they would have got a little bit closer, you know, even if they were off doing stuff for the Avengers, you know, all of them tag teaming or whatever. But there's a good chance that her and Rocket spent a lot of time together in those 5 years, and they got really close to become really close friends. So that makes sense that she'd be really happy and sad.
Mantis grew from being timid and quiet, to loud and sharing her emotions.
Yeah, she loves her emotions.
All right, so we talked about this movie, and in the non-spoilery part, I said I really liked it. The things that didn't work with me, going into a little bit of detail, were, I feel like there was a lot going on in this movie, but we knew there was going to be a lot going on in this movie. Well, as a matter of fact, I think at one point we thought Thor was going to be part of this movie. And, you know, I was like, the search for Gamora, Thor, Adam Warlock. Holy crap. How are they going to put this into one movie? So we knew some things would have to trim down for time or cut a little bit. And one of them is the character of Adam Warlock. And honestly, if you're going to cut something, then the character development of Adam Warlock, I was okay with. You know, he's very stupid.
Yes.
Very strong. Doesn't know the limits of his power. And as I mentioned earlier, no offense to the actor, but anybody could have played that role. That has something more to do with the script, the way he was written. But I guess, like I said, if they have to cut down one character, then sure, cut down the character that they introduced. The villain, the High Evolutionary. So he was interesting. He was vicious, you know, but his powers felt very, how do I put this?
Generic.
Convenient. Like whenever something, they're behind this wall. Here, let me move this. But then convenient for the plot, like Rocket is getting away. Why can't I just use the same powers that I did to move the walls to grab him?
Yeah.
So it was inconsistent. And what exactly are his powers? Like, and at times he felt a little one-dimensional, but the actor did an amazing job, though. Yeah,
Oh
he
yeah.
did an amazing job. So, but I don't know what his power levels are. Right at one point, this is a guy that created these beings.
Yeah.
And then he's being taken down by a little raccoon. And then he got taken out by the Guardians of the Galaxy, which granted, Star-Lord is half whatever the hell Ego was. So, was he Celestial? Yeah, I guess he was.
Ego was Celestial.
So, yeah, that was a somewhere in the gray area of like, are they really doing it? Or did they put enough thought into this character? Or they're just kind of writing it to fit the plot of the movie that they needed. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I was really sold on the character, or if it's just one of those things, because the villains always make the heroes.
Yes.
For him to be experimenting on all those creatures, yeah, bad. He shot those little creatures horrible.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I was expecting maybe a little more from that type of godlike character, right? Like whenever, because I mean, you already fought a freaking planet. You fought Thanos, which was a nice touch, by the way, of bringing that back up when he's explaining the whole relationship between him and Gamora and her dad.
Yes, I know. I love it. Well, and that's yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, and then the music sometimes abruptly ended. Felt sometimes forced. It just felt different than the two other movies. And the two other movies, it just kind of felt like it was organically part of the movies, and it was nice. In this, it kind of almost felt forced, like the whole listening to the Zune. Or why would they listen to the Zune right now during this particular time? Just really weird.
No, that makes sense. No, and there was a lot more like. And maybe I'm misremembering the other, and I just watched the other two movies, so I can't be. But I feel like this one had more snippets of different songs than the other ones did. Like they added more. There was more songs in this one. Am I just misremembering the other two?
Because no, you're right. There were more songs than score in this one.
Yes.
Because I think they only played the Guardian score one time, and it wasn't
that when Rocket was like fighting in his X-wing. I'm calling it X-wing, but I did this.
Yeah.
He would hear the score. Yeah.
Like they didn't play it in the hallway. They were playing, and then the scene where the badassness happens. That's all the Beastie Boys.
Yes.
But yeah, the score felt like it kind of got a backseat to all the different clips. Like you said, the clippets of music.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know what else. Those were the two. Those were a couple of things that I thought. I mean, it's hard to do a trilogy and expect the greatness that was the first movie, because when I went to the first movie, I had low expectations and I came out going, holy shit, that was one of the best freaking comic book superhero movies I've ever seen. With this one, the expectations, like as much as I don't want them to, they're kind of a little high. And this being the last one, I expected to see some new ground, being like kind of like what we saw with Volume 1. Volume 2, it has the whole issue of being a sequel going with it. But this one being the last one, I thought maybe we're going to go somewhere. And maybe that's why I was expecting some of the characters to die that we hadn't seen before in MCU movie. And I thought it still played it safe, and there were still some MCU things in there. It was still a good movie. What about you? What did not work for you, Amanda?
Yeah, so for me, what didn't work was definitely, I understand what they were doing with Adam Warlock. I see what they were trying to do with the character. High Evolutionary pulls him out of his cocoon too early, so of course he's not going to be the wise and noble Adam Warlock that we are familiar with in the comic books. And it's good they got a young actor like Will Poulter, because he can grow with the character, right? He can be Adam Warlock for many years because he's only like in his 20s. So he has a lot of time left on him. He's not like a Robert Downey Jr. in his like 40s, and it's like, the clock's ticking, right? So he can grow into the character and become the
clock
character.
ticking on our 40s.
I don't know. I don't know how Hollywood works anymore. So
according to Star-Lord, we only live to be 50.
Right, exactly. On Earth, we don't live to be like. He doesn't think his grandfather would be alive, but I don't know if we needed. I feel like they felt like they had to put Adam Warlock in there because he was introduced in an end credit scene in Volume 2. But I feel like we didn't need Adam Warlock to move the plot along. There could have been another way for Rocket to have been injured. There could have been other things something else could have happened.
Do you know how much of a fan uproar they would be if they did not add Adam
I know,
Warlock?
exactly. So they had to put him in somehow. And I mean, I like that we find out the High Evolutionary created the Sovereign. I think that's a very interesting point because they are very hoity-toity and all about themselves in that Volume 2. They thought they were like the superior race, and come to find out they could get destroyed just like that if they piss off High Evolutionary, and they're not exactly what he wanted them to be. So that kind of takes them down a peg. But yeah, it just felt, I don't know if you definitely needed the character, so I didn't know how I felt about him. And that's what I didn't like about the film in that respect, is the Adam Warlock character from that standpoint. I get where they were trying to go with it. I don't know if I was necessarily on board. I didn't mind the villain, but it is very similar. Like, even when you know, Kang the Conqueror is supposed to be what? This all-powerful, and even then in Quantumanium, that was the same problem a lot of people had. I mean, if Ant-Man can, you know, if Ant-Man can still beat him, and with the Wasp, is it real? Like, how strong is he really? And then you get the same kind of vibes with the High Evolutionary. But I think he played an interesting version of this, like, kind of mad scientist-like character. So I did like that take on it. I didn't mind the music. The yelling was bothersome to me a little bit. The one scene that stuck out to me was the constant yelling back and forth about Drax. Even though she stuck up for Drax, it was like constant yelling at each other back and forth. I was like, oh my goodness. Do I do that in my own family? Should I reevaluate my family? Like, how we talk to each other? But it was a lot of yelling. So that's what stuck out to me when I was like, And other than that, I think that's really the only things I disliked the most about the film. Other than that, I really enjoyed a lot of aspects of it.
Okay. I thought it brought everything together, and it did it in a really nice way, while still having to develop a brand new character of Gamora, right?
Yeah.
It's weird because it's like, okay, we know they're gonna, will they, won't they? But they really didn't answer the question. They had one moment, and that was nice.
Yeah.
But at the end of the movie, Peter goes his own way, and she goes her own way.
Yeah.
He's swimming in the water instead of walking on lily pads. Was that it?
Yeah, going from woman to woman. He's going to actually finally deal with everything that's happened to him. Oh, yeah, and did Groot say I love you at the end?
What's that?
Groot said I love you at the end, right? I love you guys.
I love you guys.
Yeah, I was like, oh, so Groot.
I thought he was gonna be the one that dropped the F-bomb.
Oh God, what an F-bomb that would have been.
I thought he would have been the one that dropped the F-bomb.
Yeah, but so what did you like? I mean, obviously we talked about characterization a little bit, because for me that was the highlight of this film. Like, even if there's issues with maybe meandering plots or whatnot, what makes the Guardians so great is, well, how well James Gunn and they were able to write the characters and build this really, like, honest to goodness, like, family relationship between these actors who are playing these roles. That's what it feels like to me. If it wasn't for the casting, this could have went a completely different direction, right? All these movies could have. I really think it comes down to the casting as a large part of why the former movies worked and why this movie works like it does, as well as it does too. Because I think Karen Gillan was a standout for me. Nebula,
yeah, she was great in this.
Fantastic, yeah. And Bradley Cooper's voice work with Rocket was great as well in this. And of course, yeah, I just really like the actors in this as well. I think they did a great job. And I guess that would go with some of the writing of where they had to go with their characters in this film as well.
Mm-hmm. I think I think the writing, was pretty solid, and it gave me hope for what the future of the MCU will be. Because there were times that I thought, okay, we're gonna see a very stereotypical MCU thing right now. My brother and I were talking about this after the movie, where the creatures with the giant teeth, when Mantis was calming them down, and she was like, yeah, any other MCU movie, even Guardians of the Galaxy, they would have eaten her, and then Drax would have had to break, making it a funny scene. Instead, they didn't. And I thought, maybe things are changing.
Oh, no. That's what I noticed too. This is what I appreciated about, and maybe it's just because James Gunn does this really well. When there's a dramatic moment or a sad moment, he lets it be that moment. He does not undercut it with comedy. We all know what movie I'm talking about because it made a mockery of every sad, terrible thing that happened in that film. And we're talking about Love and Thunder, right? We know.
No, I know you're talking about Love and Thunder. Were you guys surprised none of the Guardians died? 100%.
Yes.
Considering Bautista has not been to any of the showings and said that he is walking away from the character. Somebody earlier said Zoe's walking away from the character. So I thought
she was done.
And that's kind of what I thought they were going to do with the High Evolutionary. Like, I'm going to kill off a bunch of good guys.
Yeah. That's what I thought they were going to do.
No, it is far from my favorite, even though I think Thor 2 is still the worst one. I may have to revisit Love and Thunder one day.
No, I would still watch Thor 2 over.
No, Thor 2 was horrible. Thor 2 was horrible. So back to this one. Everything else I really enjoyed about this movie. Those minor gripes and minor at that. This was enjoyable. I laughed a lot, and I mean a lot, and it was throughout the entire movie.
Yep.
And emotional parts, I was emotionally involved with the characters, and I was moved. And I think that's the way movies are supposed to be. On top of that, you got a fun story, and it was a fun movie. It was enjoyable. I want to go watch it again, and I mean, I want to go watch it again tomorrow. And to me, that's the signs of a good movie.
I want to go see it again too. I was like,
it's just, it shows that you can have fun and still tell a good story with some good writing, right? Exactly. We talk about movies like, Super Mario Brothers was fun, but it was fun for a different reason. It was a kid's movie that had a bunch of Easter eggs in there for old people like me. Like, yeah, sure, it was fun. I'll watch it again for that reason. This was fun because the writing was really good, and I want to watch it again and see what I missed. I wanted to talk about some Easter eggs here in a little bit. One of my favorite moments was go full kaiju. That was interesting to see that play out with Groot going full kaiju.
Full kaiju.
I thought there were some really good moments for each of the characters.
Yes.
Including Cosmo, who says on your left. Says on your left. And I was like, what? Yes. That's awesome.
I love Cosmo. Poor Cosmo. She just did not like when Kraglin called her a bad dog. Take it back. Oh, and when I got home, I went and hugged Rue and Kenobi, and I was like, I love you guys so much. And then Kenobi threw up on the floor, and I said, oh, yeah, I still love you though.
And then we go back to Drax talking about what was it in the first one or second movie where he's like, there's two types of beings in the universe, those who dance, those who do not. All right, so he dances in this one. That was awesome. We see Peter Quill return back to his grandfather. We see the picture with his mom. We get a little cameo of Michael Rooker Yondu. He had to put makeup on for that little, instead of just hearing the voice, they actually filmed him going,
so that Kraglin
do it with your heart. Did he say something like "use your heart, boy" or something like that?
Something like that.
And you're right. I think it was the obelisk from the second one. But we also see the return of Howard the Duck. That was a nice little cameo. Not just him, but the broker from the first movie playing cards together, which was weird to see him in the movie.
That was crazy.
So I think those were the only Easter eggs I noticed. I can't remember. Did we talk about the spacesuits, the different colors from like 2001? Maybe?
No, we did not talk about that.
Yeah, so that was a little bit of take on that, and then you talked about Rocket's name. Yeah, that's all I had as far as Easter eggs. I didn't know if anybody else knows.
Let's not forget that now Rocket and Hawkeye share the same woman, and that is Linda Cardellini.
super smoking hot, Linda
Yeah,
Cardellini.
even when she's a little otter, she's still.
Yeah, we did talk a little bit about that earlier. The Kevin Bacon was
I
abducted by
love that. That was a good callback. Yeah.
As much as it surprised me, I was kind of happy, almost like a sigh of relief. Like, oh my gosh, we're actually getting a happy ending.
Yeah,
and I like that. Unlike Firefly Lane, because in Firefly Lane, Amanda and I talked about this. We were both like, "Oh, we're actually going to get a happy ending." Oh, them bastards! But I'm not going to spoil Firefly Lane. This is
for anyone in our channel that watches Firefly Lane besides the two of us. If you're a Kristen Hanna novel fan, watch Firefly Lane. It will devastate you in a lot of ways and make you wish you had female friends like that. Anyways, yeah, no. Someone said, "Oh, Robert Rodriguez says that really James Caan or was it someone else?" I thought it really was him.
Wasn't it James Caan with the bunch of makeup
on?
Right? I assume.
I believe so. Let me look in the credits.
What is that? Everything. So we can give it our final rating, and anybody
everything. What else did I like? What else did I like, or just like
Panthro toy, Alf and Garbage Pail Kids, and of course Alf was in there. Yeah, I noticed the Panthro toy. That was nice.
I don't know.
Wait. Was it James Caan in the original movie? Because he passed away, right?
Yeah, he did pass. So I was like, I don't know.
Wait, I can't remember if it was James Caan in the original movie or not. Or was it playing his grandfather? I mean, if it was James Caan that played him in the original movie, then it was definitely not him.
Greg Henry portrayed Jason Quill in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Greg Henry is his name.
Okay.
So
maybe he looks like
yes. But he's a little bit bigger, I think. Because I think of James Caan. Last thing I remember watching him in, he's in Elf, which, oh God, I know you don't watch any Will Ferrell movies, but yeah.
Why would you mention that? But yes, he's in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and he was also in Slither. That's where I remember him from. Not James Caan.
That's why he would use him.
Greg Henry.
All right. Okay. No, I love this. I really did enjoy this. I do want to go see it again because I feel like I missed some things. Don't you feel like you missed something?
Pete Davidson played that horribly messed up creature that Manta.
Was that really? That made me so laugh. So his brother Tommy's next to me, and he started laughing so loud because I know that's Tommy.
I laughed my ass off when she's like, I was screaming at something horrible behind you.
Not at you. And he's like, "Oh, thank you." I was like, "What is that creature?"
All right, anybody that has seen this movie, but first, my lovely co-host, Amazing Amanda, what would you give Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 out of 10?
Overall, I think I give it a solid 8 out of 10.
I agree. That was my rating. I should have gone first, damn it. 8 out of 10.
Get out of my head.
It was a good movie.
A good movie.
It was fun. I want to go see it again. And, my rating may change later. It might go up to like 9.5. To me, the first one's still brilliant. I love the first one. It was a hell of an experience.
Well put together, yeah.
And this is a really good movie. It's a lot of fun. Definitely everybody should go and watch it.
Agreed.
It's one of the strongest MCU Phase 4. Is this Phase 4 or 5? Yeah, where are we at?
We're in Phase 5, and yes.
Oh, we're in Phase 5. Okay, Phase 5.
So far, it's the strongest. And I think that's why, I did cry at the end and still thinking about tears up because they were the last, of the staple original Marvel MCU, they're one of the few that was left, and now, they're gone, and we're in new uncharted territory, and so far some of that territory hasn't paid off or isn't coming, isn't the way we want it to be, is not as good as we expected it to be. So, it's a little sad.
I really do hope the movie does come back, or the characters do come back at least in one of the Avengers movies. I hate it. James, did you lose your shit when you saw Alf in there, man? All right, let's see what everybody else thinks. Marvel Bab gives it a 9.5. A Teed's giving it a 8. He agrees. 10 from Blas. Really, a 10. A perfect 10. Jose's an 8. 8.24.
Oh, my goodness. 9 for Roberto.
That is some high praises from Roberto Rodriguez.
Yes.
I know it's what was your favorite Marvel movie? Was it Captain Marvel, Roberto? I can't remember what it was. Was it Captain Marvel, Love and Thunder? 8. Oh my gosh, how many stars is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8.5 out of 10.
10.
8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. Were you satisfied with the ending? I think so. Yeah. Everybody goes on their own. Rocket is left to be the team leader.
As it should be, yeah.
Drax is a father. Gamora feels like she's found a family. Or I'm sorry. Nebula feels like she's found a family. Gamora still, it almost feels like her being a Ravager felt a little forced, but yeah, it was okay with her.
Because I didn't think because she's still at that point, she was still the Nebula, the Gamora that was about to betray Ronan, right? Because where she was plucked from, she was just at that point. I mean, he was about to steal it off of Morag. They were about to meet. So it didn't make sense that she would be that mean, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's fine. Yeah.
9 out of 10. My buddy Josh hasn't seen it. Never mind. He knocked it down a point because of the lack of Star-Lord. No Star-Lord helmet.
It's true. No Star-Lord helmet in this one. That's interesting.
Does this beat the third movie trilogy curse? What do you mean? Like Superman 3? Or Thor Ragnarok? Or Spider-Man 3?
Wait, 8 Spider-Man out 3 of 10. Is fantastic.
I know. 10 out of 10?
10 out of 10.
My favorite was Love and Thunder. I know, I'm joking with you. Probably one of the best trilogies. In terms of consistency, absolutely.
Yes, agreed.
And that's usually what happens when you have one director, one vision, and you give him characters that I'm sure nobody else wanted. I'm sure most people going into the MCU are like, oh, I'll take Captain America. I'll take Thor. I'll take Iron Man. Nobody was coming in going, give me the Guardians.
Guys.
Give me the Guardians of the Galaxy.
And I will make them a billion-dollar franchise for you. Just give me the Guardians.
I mean, there's kids nowadays with Rocket, Raccoon, stuffed animals.
Groot's everywhere, like baby Groot. And
it makes me so damn happy. So damn happy.
Now,
we haven't had a 9.8 since Endgame. See, I actually like Infinity War more than I did Endgame. And don't get me wrong, Endgame was great. I love Infinity War. It ended dark. The third movie is a trilogy usually sucks, or it's the worst of the 3. Hold your tongue. Superman 3 is a class. Is it? Okay.
Did we just do that?
You get a pass, Louise. We did. Nobody wants. Where did that even come from, Blast?
Where's that from?
I'll take the New Warriors. Me and Fabian. I thought Doctor Strange, Multiverse. I can't remember what the hell it's called. Was a 9.4 and 9.6. I think I gave it an 8, 8.5, something like that. I really enjoyed that movie. I didn't think it had issues like some people did.
I didn't like it as much as this one. I like this one way more than.
Yeah, I like this one more. I thought the graphics in this one were better. I thought the special effects, practical effects were better in this one.
That's my question about the special effects, because Gunn was posting, up to the film, right? He was posting the visual effects house that they were using. Like he kept tagging them in all the stuff. I don't remember who it is. I'm gonna look up my like. Did he get permission to use his own or what? Like, because the big thing that everyone complains about with the Marvel VFX is that they're overworked. They just kind of they farm it out. Then those people are overworked, and there's a whole big thing, right? But it didn't feel that way with James Gunn, and I guess that's my question. Did he get to do something different? I don't know. Frame store is what they
it's all like, okay, here's the thing. It's not like the CG. It's not like the CG was perfect.
Well,
like when Adam Warlock is flying around, sure, it still looks like a green screen. But you get lost in the moment with all the action that's going on in the background, and it goes by so quick, right? It's not a big focal point of the movie. There were a couple of other scenes that I thought, especially with like Groot a little bit, but yeah, I don't know who he hired, but they did a really good job, and
Frame Store, that's the company he keeps tagging.
Who is it?
Frame Store, they're out of UK.
Oh, thanks for showing me your phone. Appreciate
Oh,
that.
you're welcome. They're the ones who he keeps tagging in, like, he'll show like the test footage for like baby rockets and stuff, and they're the ones.
Okay. He did it like Christopher Nolan, and he hired actual aliens. No,
and I was telling Omar, it must be nice to be a friend or loved one of James Gunn, because you never have to worry about never working. You'll always have a job.
Here's the thing. Like, here's something I thought about. When he lost his job at Disney, I remember Bautista was the first one to go on social media and be like, bring him back.
Yeah, exactly. I
mean, bring him back. And then everybody, and then all the Guardians cast, I think, stood up and said, or not stood up, or went to social media, whatever we call it these days, and said, yeah, bring him back.
Yeah, I think that speaks volumes.
And I think you do that for somebody, they will remember you for life.
Yeah. Exactly.
You do that, you stand up for somebody, and they will remember you for life. Yeah, his wife ain't going nowhere. She's eating good. She's in every major project, so she ain't running around on no. Because I forgot he was married. He used to be married to what's her name, Pam from The Office.
Was he?
Oh yeah, they were married. That's why she was in what was it? She was in Slither.
That's weird. I was not expecting that.
Really? That actually makes more sense than his new wife.
No, like, him and Jennifer Holland makes sense.
To me, like,
wow.
Sean Gunn's a funny guy, and
he's a funny guy.
Pam Beasley. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. I just that's something I remembered. Even Sean Gunn's character had growth. Yeah, even minor characters, which shows you how much this universe in the. I guess in the span of like 3 movies and a little bit of Infinity War and Endgame, have grown. And it makes me really want to go back and rewatch them. Yeah. Captain America is still the best trilogy. Yeah, it's up there for me. I would really have to sit back and think about this one.
Yeah,
James Gunn's the Rob Zombie of comic book movies. Really, not Sam Raimi, huh? That's interesting. Because I would think Sam Raimi is a little more. But this was a lot of fun to talk about. It was nice.
It was.
Because you always go through these movies with like, oh shit, here we go. Is this gonna be like Love and Thunder, or is it gonna be like one of the good ones?
Well, I mean, yeah, after I saw Ant-Man, I was really worried. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I think most people were, right? I mean, I think most fans that love Marvel movies probably had every right to be worried. Like, is this the new future? They're winging it? And I told you, Ant-Man 2 was the first sign of them winging it for me.
Yep, and I didn't believe you, but now I was starting to think.
You play it safe, and you give the people the same thing over and over again. People are going to start notice when you get lazy. People are going to be like, oh, wait a minute, did an AI write this movie? Because it kind of sucks.
Maybe it did. Yeah, no, agreed. But this movie...
Oh, sorry. That's what Tim means. He's the Rob Zombie of comic book movies because he's always hiring his wife.
Yes, that's true.
Could be.
Yeah.
This movie gave me a little, we back, baby. Yeah, right? What's the next one? The Marvels?
That's not till November, so we got some time. Now, I know we're going to have a bunch of...
Secret Invasion. We got Secret Invasion.
Yeah, Secret Invasion, and I think Loki's still supposed to come out this year, too. So we'll have some TV shows to hold us over. Mm-hmm. And, of course, we still have plenty of DC superheroes.
Now, is Secret Invasion dropping all in one day, or how many is it? Do you know how it's... Is it 6?
There's 6 episodes an hour long. I don't think they're going to drop in one day. They'll probably still do it weekly.
Good.
It would make sense to keep that format. It keeps in the conversation longer, and
Well, the first one drops while I'm in Japan, so like I can't review that one until I get back. So yes, wait for me.
Oh, good. Well, then I can watch it a couple
times.
While
I'm here, there we go. While I'm here, Japan, there we go. It's been a minute, okay? And you took away my freaking Ghost Rider gift.
I didn't take it away. I don't delete anything.
Dude, I ain't gonna lie. The trailers, and they used the Beastie Boys again in the trailer. Intergalactic, right? So yeah, it looks fun. I'm in.
Marvel or Disney paid them a lot of money, so we want to use some of your stuff. Let's just do it.
All right, here we go. What do we think about the Fantastic Four casting rumors?
It's not true.
I hope it's not true. Don't get me wrong. I love. I guess
Margot Robbie.
I almost said Samara Weaving. It's Margot Robbie. I think she's a great actress. And Adam Driver's a good actor, but why do we need them? We don't need those. We don't need big names like that.
Yeah, and Paul Mescal. Okay, Paul Mescal is fairly unknown. I would say that's a fine. I don't know how he would be as Johnny Blaze. I don't think I've ever seen anything really that he's in.
What the hell was Paul Mescal?
He was in something that got nominated for an Oscar. He got nominated for an Oscar. I don't know. But he's relatively
Moscow, like the
Actor Son was what he just got nominated for this year. I could see him as a Johnny. I could see him as Johnny. Yeah, Johnny Storm. That's fine.
Who the hell is this guy? I don't. Okay, you sure? Bring him in there. All right, I don't know who this guy is.
But then they said there's talk of Mila Kunis being a female thing. Is that?
Yeah, that was she shot that rumor.
Okay, because that'd been.
I don't know who started that one, but what the hell? What? I think maybe they're just how people are, like they love making fun of the same thing over and over again.
Exactly.
And, yeah, sure. MCU, right? Isn't that the thing?
Yeah,
so I am not on board with Adam Driver nor Margot Robbie.
No.
We don't need them. These characters. I'm okay with that kid, whoever that kid was from
I'll show you.
After Sun or whatever it is.
After Sun, yes.
Johnny Blaze, that guy. Yeah, sure. I don't know who he is. Give me no names. That's what I want.
Yeah, because the thing is how it's going to be so hard. Not that Margot Robbie is not a good actress. But it's going to be hard not to see Barbie, not to see Harley Quinn, not to see the crazy wife from Wolf on Wall Street when I watch her play Sue Storm. It would be very difficult. Same with Adam Driver.
Well, no, I'm sure they could, but we don't need them.
Why can't we just spend less money on the actors and get not say less money, but get someone who is unknown, can grow with the role, doesn't have commitments to 1,000 other
somebody that can sign a 10-year deal.
Yes, right? Let's get someone like that. I mean, let's face it, those two are hot commodities in Hollywood. So
I want a thing with a thick New York accent. Well, I'm sure Mila Kunis can do a. Is Amanda's camera pixelated? It is a little pixelated. I noticed that too, and her audio isn't syncing. Well, we're gonna get that fixed.
Oh, sorry about that.
Do we even get a white blonde in which one? In Johnny Storm or Sue Storm? Iron Lad, Amanda, thoughts on Iron Lad?
Well, I don't know if it's not Ty Simpkins. I don't care. So that's all I have to say about that.
You know who they want as Iron Lad, Amanda. You know who they want as Iron Lad.
Not while Don Cheadle's still breathing. Not while Don Cheadle's
Whatever. Whatever. Anything else before we wrap up tonight? This was a lot of fun.
Nope. I think that is all we have tonight, but we'll be back on Wednesday. Not sure yet what we're going to be talking about, but we'll let you all know, of course, through social media. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and remember to follow us on all of our social media channels at @NearMakeCon. Remember, check us out on Spreadshop for some great Near Make Edition merchandise, and also check us out on Patreon for $1 a month or more. You can support us here and everything that we do. And last but not least, if it's classy and cool, it must be near mint. Good journey, everyone, and we will see you. Well, Omar will see you tomorrow, but I will see you all next week.
I'll see you tomorrow. Everyone stay healthy and safe. Thank you for joining us. Hit that like button on the way out. All right, we need some super chats to pay for Amanda's new camera.